I was taken off to America and went and did the old like sort of Ivy Trail, and like went to like the J Press stores, and then met Richard Press, who's Jacobi Press's son, at the at FIT, which is Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, and he showed me, Luke, and Matt Taylor around the exhibition that he co-curated with Ralph Lauren. It was just like amazing, and then we went and had tea with him opposite.
That is just what a crazy journey. Hello and welcome back to JobsWorth. This week we have Keith James, who is the owner of Stow Velo. He's our first ever artisan bike mechanic, and I think it's probably safe to say the only artisan bike mechanic we will ever have on the podcast. And I will say this now, if Keith does not have his own podcast or YouTube channel by the end of the year dedicated to everything bikes, I'll be amazed, because he is one of the most knowledgeable people and passionate people about his craft. It is specifically about bikes, but about his craft that I think we've ever had on. He is a self-confessed bike geek, and it was an absolute honour to sit down with him. And I admit quite early on, I know nothing about bikes. I've always looked at kind of bike culture from the outside and wanted to get involved, but never quite had the knees to make that happen. But Keith, he does a very good job of trying to sell that. So who knows? One day you might see me in some Lycra, which is an uncomfortable proposition for anyone. But Keith was a joy to speak with. He has got so many talents. There is so much that he could have gone on to do with his career as a creative at heart. But what he's gone on to build with Stow Velo, not only build it, he actually built it over in Walthamstow before then, around 2 years after setting it up, picking it up and moving it to Leigh. So it's a very new thing in this area, and he's trying to build this cycling community in the local area, which is inspiring stuff, but he's on a mission to make it happen with some really exciting events coming up too. So please enjoy Keith's story. He's somewhat of a legend, and I think, well, I challenge you to listen or watch this episode and not fall in love with him a bit. It's hard. So anyway, enjoy Keith. As always, let us know if you've got any feedback. Please get involved with the comments wherever you're watching or listening, and stay tuned for next week. If you've listened to a couple of episodes, you know that we always start with the first opening tradition on the podcast, which is the question, when you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up? So we're going to start there.
The first sort of real memory of what I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Okay.
Yeah. That, and I wanted to do animatronics.
Wow.
Both of them got scuppered.
How?
Right,
Why did they get scuppered?
School wouldn't let me do biology as well as art and design technology for my A-levels.
Okay.
So because of that, I couldn't go into the marine biology side of things.
Yeah.
And I probably would have struggled quite a lot with the actual science of it. I think it was the idea of jumping in the sea and swimming with turtles.
Because I was going to say, you're not the first person to say marine biology.
Yeah.
And then I was going to ask what the inspiration was. Was it visions of you getting in the water?
I think it was me in water. I used to swim. I was like super good swimmer when I was a kid. I was like, national levels, feeder team. Used to swim against Mark Foster.
Oh yeah.
Although he's a lot older than me. But yeah, I swam against him. I think the last time I swam against him, I was 13 in the Welsh Open.
Wow.
So it was him, Mark Foster, and Mark Alderman. The big guys. And yeah, so water was just a thing. I used to go canoeing quite a lot and sailing, and just loved being around water. So. Yeah,
nice. Yeah. Okay. But marine biology wasn't to be.
Marine biology wasn't to be. No, it didn't happen. And then animatronics, I'd love using my hands. And the idea of, my parents took me to a Jim Henson exhibition at the Barbican when I must have been, it was after Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. because they had those heads in it.
You're talking my language.
Yeah, but they had
now,
those heads in it, and they had all of the Skeksis and stuff from the Dark Crystal.
Oh, wow.
And it was just, that was like, wow. And there was another exhibition my parents did, I can't remember where it was at all. It was almost like it was in a shop. And it had lots of the little models from Star Wars and that kind of stuff in it, and like some of the Gremlins bits. And so yeah, from that I would have loved to have got into animatronics, and I applied for Jim Henson's course.
Nice.
But the year that I would have gone to uni, they amalgamated it. So the course is no
Sod's Law.
more. And now Sod's Law, it's all gone like back to this like puppetry and like real life rather than CGI, because it just looks better on screen.
Weirdly, I was talking to Tom earlier while we were setting up about Guillermo del Toro is now setting up a stop motion animation school, which I just think is amazing. When you're right, I think a lot of people are now saying CGI doesn't work all the time. We want to go back to puppetry and actually having animatronics working. So to hear, especially when AI is such a big thing, to hear that shift happening, I'm all for
it's amazing.
it.
Have you seen the, it's on Disney, the ILM, Industrial Light and Motion. So
I know
of ILM,
it, but I haven't seen it. There's a documentary.
There's
right,
a documentary
on
Disney, and it's just amazing. Like that early days of setting up, working out how to make jigs and cameras capture stuff, so it didn't have to be stop frame. It's just a genius.
I love that. So you've already alluded to wanting to do something with your hands, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the animatronic angle came in. We are going to talk about what you're doing now, but a big part of the podcast is talking about how your relationship with work has changed. And it seems like there's a couple of junctions in your life from a bit of research I've done on you and some of what you've sent. So a little bit of snooping, I mean, I'd love if there was more. But yeah, it definitely seems there's a couple of junctions in your life where you've made changes. But I do want to go, I think to understand those changes, we need to go back slightly. So I do want to ask, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in, no, I'm not from around here. So I grew up in a tiny little village outside of Reading called Hurst.
Okay.
Which was tiny. The primary school I went to had 6 people in my year.
Wow.
And because of that, I was always on a bike to get everywhere. And my first bike was something that I found in a ditch, and me and my dad put back together again and repainted it, and like kind of came from there. But yes, I grew up just outside of Reading. And then I moved to London when I was about 18, 19.
Right.
And was in South London to start off with, then to Kingston for uni, and then came back and was in East London in 2003. So the delights of what is the beautiful London feels when it wasn't quite so beautiful.
Right, okay. Yeah, so, you've experienced the kind of evolution.
And going back to where my mum's side of the family's from, and my dad's side of the family is South East London. So
right, okay. One of the questions I was going to ask, because I mean, in the intro that we'll be doing for this, it'll be very obvious what you're doing now. But I did want to ask, what was the earliest age you remember getting on a bike? You pulled the one out of the ditch. I'm assuming you rode one before that.
No. So, I mean, I can remember I had a tricycle when I was probably 3. And it was fixed wheels, so it means that you can't stop pedaling, so it's direct drive. And I used to sit on it backwards and pretend I was an ice cream man. And I can remember it really, really well. And there's a hilarious photo of me and my brother in the garden. I've got like a plastic tub on my head as a helmet. So yeah, probably about 3 years old. But like bikes have always been part of family stuff. Like we'd go on cycling holidays. We went to the Isle of, it was either Borough or Mull. We got like a train up and then, sleep and rode a bit of it and then onto the island. And yeah, there was always a bike. My dad had this massive tank pre-war thing and would ride in a massive bright yellow sou'wester.
Nice.
Me and Danny moaning in the background. But yeah, there was always bikes. My mum, there was a bike outside the front of the house. She used to do a paper round. I started doing a paper round. And obviously, you get to a certain age, you don't want to do it anymore. And she just carried on doing it. So my mum did.
She inherited your job.
She inherited the paper round, and she did the paper round for years. Yeah, on this rickety old rally with a basket that was just hanging full of paper.
I have to mention that I had a couple of paper rounds when I was younger and got fired from both of them.
Oh, brilliant.
And I feel like maybe I mentioned this before on a podcast with my brother, but I got fired because I never actually finished one of the rounds.
It wasn't
not
even on your first day.
No, it wasn't the best work ethic at the age of, I don't know what I was, 14 maybe at the time. But I remember I got found out by the guy that owned the newsagent following me in his car.
Oh, and you just dumped the papers?
I just dumped the papers in a bush. Yeah,
Nice.
I don't know why I'm sharing that with you now. I feel like I can. But anyway, that was my experience of paper rounds.
Getting off the shoulders.
Exactly, yeah. I feel like it's therapy for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so your first experience getting on a bike is 3.
Yeah.
You've had this experience of getting a bike out of a ditch and
Rebuilding it from scratch.
Rebuilding it from scratch.
Yeah, yeah.
Driven by your dad, I'm assuming, and initially.
Well, no, I
or was
mean, it was
a desire
actually
from you?
no. I mean, the way my dad recalls it is me coming up to him saying, "Dad, I found the bike," and me and him going out in the car and pulling it out of a ditch together.
Okay. Do you remember how old you were then?
I think I might have been like 10, 11.
Okay.
It's pretty hard to. Quite a while ago. It wasn't the most amazing bicycle, but it was, something they'd done, and we weren't an affluent family as a kid, so it was make do and mend. I remember getting my first proper new bike, which was a Rani Marauder in the early days of mountain bike, and absolutely loving it. And then 16, getting a super fancy giant carbon bike that was on sale, that we sort of had as a birthday, Christmas joint present for like 4 years on the trot kind of thing. My brother still got that mountain bike. He had his re-sprayed, and that was one of the very few bikes that I've sold on myself in my life.
Did you ever imagine 10, 11 years old thinking that you'd be getting into a career now that's been spanning nearly 30 years?
Well, yeah, I mean, so it started out for me in the actual trade itself when I was about 14.
Okay.
And that was where I lived in Hurst. The next town over, or village over, was called Twyford. And there was a little bike shop in Station Approach called Dave Russell Cycles. And I used to just go there religiously every Saturday to the point where they just got annoyed, I think, or were just like, it's free labour. And it was a case of like, grab your fingers off the glass, here's a rag, here's a broom, and sort of occasionally would do a couple of hours there, and it went from there on in, really.
Nice.
It's like, put myself through uni by working part-time in a bike shop. And,
okay.
Yeah.
So when you went to university, was it product design that you went to go and do?
So I initially started at South Bank Uni doing sports product design and engineering, which was amazing. Very like niche kind of specialist degree. Really hard maths. I'm not a great mathematician. I failed my maths GCSE 3 times.
Okay. At least you tried.
I tried. I got there. I had to get it to get into uni. So I got into this course, and it was brilliant. It was like really hands-on. We spent a lot of time in the actual physical workshops on the lathes and the milling machines and that kind of stuff. There was lots of applied mathematics. There was biomechanics involved with it as well, which was fascinating. So for me, it was like a dream course. But we got to the end of the year, and out of, I think it was only like 12 people on the course when it started, only 4 of us got through to the second year, and they amalgamated the course.
Right.
So I then left and got an unconditional place at Kingston.
Right.
Where I did product and furniture design. Yeah.
Did you have a clear idea of what you wanted to be?
Not a Scooby.
So what was the driver? What was the driver for uni at that time?
It was something where I could use. So I've got mad dyslexia. Okay. I'm really dyslexic, and it wasn't until I was at uni that I found out I was dyslexic.
Right.
So I always went to do something university-wise that would have a practical side to it. So being in the workshop, learning woodwork or metalwork.
Again, using your hands, right?
But problem solving at the same time.
Okay.
So that's how my brain works. It's like everything to me is some kind of a machine or a problem to be solved. So that's kind of why I went into that kind of a course.
Okay, brilliant. Because I think it's really interesting when we're talking about education for people. There's like a tribe of people that had an idea or had an inkling of what they wanted to be when they grew up, when they went to uni. But the majority of people I speak to went to uni because they were going to uni. Like there wasn't much. Yeah, I mean, there's a part
of that with me as well. I mean, I didn't have parents that pushed me into a career. My mum, when I was little, said, "I don't care what you do with your life as long as you get yourself a trade." Okay. So that's where the carpentry came from. Mm-hmm. But that was part and parcel of being on the course and learning fine cabinetry making, and so I left uni with a degree and essentially a half, because I got a half degree for the first one, and went straight back into a bike shop. So
I think it's safe to say, looking at what you've done and what you do now, do you describe yourself as a creative?
Oh yeah. Definitely creative. It's like I liked my brain needs to be active in that way. Okay. I don't like reading. I find reading really hard. Most of my learning is visual. Mm-hmm. and that's a big part of what I want, where I want to take the business in time, is to be able to take on an apprentice and pass my skills on. And that, I think that's something that's missing a lot within industries these days, is that those skills aren't passed on to the next generation and they get lost. And, you know, it would be a really nice thing to do. So
I think you were the only artisan bike mechanic I've ever spoken to. I think it's a lovely label, and I think, as you say, really honouring that as a trade and as a skill set.
Yeah.
How often does it happen anymore? Look, most people's experience, if they're just your everyday weekend bike ride, is like a service down one of like Halfords, or something similar.
I think this is where and how the bike industry's changed massively, and what I've experienced and seen over the years. Bikes are really expensive these days, you know, and if I was in Japan, I'd be a master of my trade, because it takes 25 years to become a master, and I've been doing this for over 30. But bikes are really, really expensive, and the whole thing with servicing bikes for me is that I really care about what I do. I genuinely, like, each bike has to leave my shop in a much better condition, if not better than the day that it was bought, when it's left my hands. And sometimes I labour and spend far too much time on servicing a bike than I should do. I'm really particular about how bar tape's finished, for instance. So I've got like special narrow electrical tape that I finish it with, and working what that cut angle is, and counting the turns off, and learning the figure of eights, and just being, it's like even little things like how long the excess piece of cable out of a rear derailleur should be before it's cut, and then finishing the ferrule with a little cross. So every ferrule on a bike, which is a little, what we used to call lead ends, but the little aluminium sleeve that goes over, is crimped, and I crimp mine with a cross.
Right.
And it's like it's my signature on the bike.
I was going to say, it sounds like a signature, yeah.
It's also something that I've learned from way back in old bike shop language of, as a mechanic, you can then say, yes, I've worked on this bike, or no, I haven't worked on this bike, simply by looking at,
it's visual recognition that I've
and with the advent of
fingerprints been
like
on
electric group sets now, I don't even get to do that.
Yeah.
So
Are you pushing back against some of the evolution that you've seen in industry and some of the tools?
So that's a big part of what fascinates me, is the technology and how it's evolved, and how, like, I can remember carbon first coming out in the bike world, and everyone, what are you using carbon fibre for? It's brittle. And like the advent of suspension, like that was new. That didn't exist when I was a kid. And then all of a sudden it came with, like, 50mm travel, and then 80mm travel, and then 100mm travel. And, like, I'm now riding a bike with 160mm travel on it, which is excess for what it needs. But yeah, to see those evolutions is amazing. And it's, some of it I disagree with. I think it's unnecessary for the everyday cyclist. Is
the term over-engineered accurate, or is that the wrong thing to say right now, as someone that is ignorant?
You could say some things like, that's a prime example, it's going to mean nothing to you. Internal headsets. So your headset bearing is a movable part between the fork steerer and the frame, and it has a bearing unit in there which does wear, so it needs to be replaced. But internal means that the hoses, usually the hydraulic hoses, which is the cables for the brakes, go through that bearing. So to take that headset apart, sometimes you have to almost disassemble the entire front end of the bike to change two bearings at about 35, 40 quid. Or you put in a £300 ceramic headset that's supposed to be serviceable and will last, but it won't still last indefinitely. So that's over-engineered and unnecessary, and needs to have a solution to it. One of them is essentially like a coupler, which would break the hose like they do on motocross bikes, which they haven't invented. There's one brand that does do it, but it's not based in the UK and they're really hard to get hold of. Or to work out a way of running those cables internally, but through an internal sleeve that's separate from the bearing, so that you can actually service it. So
you're right. It doesn't mean anything to me. But for anyone watching or listening to this that can see how you're talking about that, first off, you clearly know your shit, and then and thank you for taking me through it, because it does now give me an understanding of what we're talking about there. Because I mentioned before we started recording officially, I think I look at bikes, bike culture, the movement that seems to be growing. I think it's fair to say. It feels like there's more momentum now. And I want a piece of that.
Yeah.
Like I feel
come
other than
see
that,
me.
yeah,
I can sort you
outside
out.
looking in. But I can see straight away the brand you're building and the way you're communicating about what it is you do. You clearly give a shit.
Oh, yeah.
And that's infectious.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thanks, man.
So
No, it means a lot.
whether I understand it or not, I'm sat here going, there's plenty I don't understand, but I can say I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
NFL being one of those things, right?
Yeah,
I can sit there and go, I think that's cool. I've got no idea what's happening on the field at any given time.
An American football team. We used to play a lot of rugby when I was a kid.
Really? Yeah.
And I remember putting that, like, it was just, I was like, I feel like a superhero.
Yeah.
I was just knocking, it was for the Monarchs. I was
Nice.
just knocking people for 6. It
Yeah.
was just like, this is the next level.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to hit you as hard as I can. And it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Like, this is
The pads and a helmet do make a huge difference on those
I mean, I played
contacts, don't they?
rugby from a young age, and we'd train on a frozen rugby pitch with no pads whatsoever and just be told to get back up again.
Yeah.
And you feel like you've fallen down, broken your shoulder.
It would hurt enough just sliding across the ground when the ground was hard. Take skin off your legs before you've even
Those
really
bars
started
you sit there,
playing.
you're just tingling.
Yeah.
Like, just,
Well, there you go. So that was the example I was using. But yeah, when you can talk and you can generally see that someone cares, straight away it stops you and you think, I want to know more about that. And we're going to talk a bit more about the movement that you're trying to build. And I don't want to jump ahead too far.
No.
But you've, from the look of it, you've had quite a varied career.
Yeah, it's been, I've done lots of, I mean, the bike thing's always been there. That's always been.
So that seems to be the undercurrent at the very least.
Yeah.
Coming out of uni, you're straight into a bike shop at the time as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
So straight out of uni, when I was at uni, I started in South Bank. I was working for Evans Cycles, but it was when Evans Cycles was little, and it had the Cut and Waterloo Road, and the Cut was like the road specialist bit, and the one that I was working on, Waterloo Road, was a bit more of your commuter and everyday kind of thing.
Got you. Okay.
And then when South Bank's course amalgamated, I moved to Kingston, where there was a bike shop called Bonthrin that had just been taken over by Evans Cycles.
Right.
And I worked there. I was there on a Thursday evening and Saturday morning through the whole way through my 3 years at uni.
Wow. Okay.
And then left uni and got a job at Condor Cycles, which is in cycling like a bastion of British or the London cycling scene. It's one of the longest. I think it's the last family-owned bike shop, and it's one shop that only sells now its own brand bikes, and that's why I was taught to bike fit. So bike fit is like being a tailor for bikes. Yeah.
So at 6'4", 104 kilos.
Yeah.
What are we talking about for me? What's the bike fit? I guess that's a loaded question because there's a lot
it's very,
to it.
Very low. I mean, I'm 6'3" and I don't know, 16 a bit stone. I don't know what that is in your money.
Probably about the
Similar.
same, actually. It's not a million miles away. Yeah.
Bike fitting I love bike fitting. I've been doing it for a long time. So I started out when I was at Condor, which was 2003. That was 12 years ago. There's a lot of fitters out there that say there's an optimal bike fit. I'm like, well, there can't be an optimal bike fit because your body's never going to be in optimal condition. So what you need to look at is what fit you need for the type of riding you're doing, not the optimal fit that you again can transfer across every single bike. So if you're like racing crit, for instance, which is like out and out, super fast, hour plus a lap kind of, smash it road riding, you're going to be long, you're going to be low, you want a really aggressive bike because you're not looking for that long-term comfort. You're looking for the maximum power outage that you can have in the most efficient position. But that person, if they wanted to do training riding, would probably not ride their crit bike for training on, because they're going to be in a more upright position, different gearing ratios. So bike fitting is in some ways a dark art.
But that's great. I think anything that still has a barrier to entry or something that you have to really go through it, you have to have your rite of passage almost, earn your stripes to be really good at it.
Yeah. I
think I love that things like that still exist.
Well, bike thing for me is like bikes are really expensive these days. If I didn't work in the trade, I wouldn't have the bikes I've got because I literally couldn't afford them. But if you're spending realistically £4,000 as a start point these days on a good bike, up to £20,000+ for a very, very, very good bike. come and spend 200 quid with me on a bike fit, you know, because we can then say, yes, this isn't going to work. This is going to work for you, or this isn't going to work for you. And, you know, when you're fitting, it's the stem lengths that's different. The bar widths are a different, you know, width. You get different drop on the bar itself. You get crank length changes, inline offset seat posts. There's so many variables within that to optimize it is really hard, but you get to the point where, and you're on a static jig, remember, so it's never going to replicate exactly what's going on when you're out on the road. So you've got to get them to the point where they're comfortable and you're comfortable. And I'm very touchy-feely, holistic in my fitting. I'm not driven by data. I don't have lasers. I use an old school plumb bob. You know, like, and talk to you. And the biggest thing about my bike fitting is to talk to someone to the point where they're relaxed. And when they become relaxed, then all of their bad sort of body posture or bad habits come out on the bike, and then you can start to fix it.
Nice.
You know, you can look at something and go, oh, you've got a slight curvature to your spine, or your shoulder's dropped. You've dislocated that shoulder at some point, haven't you? Or like, you know, you've got one of your knees are kicking in. You roll, like, so you can see people's ailments while you're fitting, and then you can get to the point where you're almost correcting that in the position.
It's a real education, because I didn't realise there were so many variables. I thought you could, you know, lift the seat post, sort your handbars out.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
No, I mean, it's within a couple of mil on your fit, really. Yeah. But you know, like the space, you can get a spacer, which is the bit that goes under the stem, 2.5 millimeters differences you can make. You know, and the stem itself will only go in like 10 centimeter increments from like an 80 to 140 if you really need it. Not that anyone really needs a 140 stem. And bars go from 36 to 52 external, but most of the time you're sitting between 38 and 44. Right. So like between 100 and 110 normally on stems, you know, but sometimes there's the extreme ends that you need to get the fit right.
It's funny talking to you now, because I think even if I'd spoken to you when you first started at Condor, a lot of this, you're talking through experience.
Yeah,
I already feel like a lot of that you would have been able to talk in.
So
you know,
Condor really like, you know, that's where I really learned a lot. You know, I was madly into bikes before Condor, but I was a BMXer, I was a mountain biker.
Right.
And I went to uni, and met one of my really good friends, John. He's the guy that actually did the sign writing outside the front of the shop.
Nice.
And he was a bike messenger, and was like, oh, you know, you've got a road bike. And I was like, I've got a road bike at home. And I bought this road bike off of a ex-pro mountain biker, and turned up with it was bright, like lime. No, was it like a citrus green with like it was a blue Kawasaki sticker on it.
Right. Okay.
Old, you know, Shimano Grupo on it. And so yeah, I've got this. And John looked at it and flipped over and went, you know, it's a Pinarello, Keith. And I was like, it's a Pinarello. It's like, you look at cars, bikes like cars. So like Colnago's like your Ferrari. Pinarello sits probably somewhere in like Lamborghini's language.
Okay.
And then you've got DeRosa, which is like Maserati kind of style.
Okay.
Maserati, so. And he was like, it's a Pinarello. And it turned out it was, the frame number was stamped either 1A or A1. It was an ex-Tour de France race frame.
And the person that you bought it off had no idea. No, obviously, because I'm assuming they would have sold it for a fair amount more.
Didn't know. And then I had it repaired, and got it all the, you know, the correct graphics back on it, and rode it for ages. It was too small for me. And then had that when I started Condor. And John sort of got me into the fixed gear and road bike thing, because before that I was mountain bike. So,
right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Condor really was where I cut my teeth and learned a lot. Okay. Condor's like an amazing place to work, because it's such a long. It's like either 70. I think it's 70 years or 75 years old now. It's been around for a long, long time.
It's like an institution, right?
Especially
in that world.
Like, I mean, the list of A-list celebrities that have been through that place to have bikes fitted is insane. And because you've got everything from like someone that's been going there for like 40 years and has got an absolute dog of a bike, but they will still maintain it, to someone that's going to go and drop £20,000, you know, and they've got it all. So it was a massive eye opener for me, and the brushing with celebrities was hilarious as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you got any anecdotes you can share? Or was it just more a case of
So
being
Alexis
being
Sale
around?
was a hilarious one.
Okay.
Yeah. Just, I mean, for me, not for him, because in my little head there was just these boots from Maple Walking just stamping around and our boys. I think the best one is Eric Clapton.
Nice.
But this is classic me. So I'm downstairs in the lower basement, or the lower showroom, which is where they do all the bike fitting and all the bikes and the frames and that kind of stuff on. I'm fitting a guy on a bike and chatting to him about vintage steel bikes and all this kind of stuff. And these two guys come down. Pete, one of my colleagues, was like, "You guys need a hand?" They're like, "Oh no, this guy, we want to talk steel. This guy really knows what he's talking about when it comes to steel." So I'll be with you in a minute, guys. Don't worry. Anyway, get them on the jig. Start fitting one of them, chatting away. And I was like, right, I'm going to go for my lunch, but I'm also going to hand you over because I'm leaving in like 3 weeks. So it's just I was about to leave the company, and I wouldn't have been there to follow through on the after sale, which is the best part of is handing the bike off and the customer going, that appreciation moment.
Yeah. Went
off for my lunch, went up to Pete and said, "Can you go and finish off these guys?" And I said, "Yeah, no, not a problem." And I came back in and Pete, did you realise who that was? And I was like, no. He goes, "Yeah, it was Eric Clapton, Keith." And I was like, "What?"
No recognition whatsoever.
Didn't. Yeah. It's just, I said, there's two old boys down there. One's got glasses and a beard. Not like that's the greatest guitarist in the world ever.
Yeah. Well, it's just nice that you were so focused on the task at hand that you weren't getting starstruck. It wasn't even on the radar for you.
No, it wasn't even on the radar.
No, brilliant.
Yeah.
Me again, I hope you're enjoying the episode. If you could do us a favour and take a little bit of time to rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening, or subscribe on YouTube. Me, Tom, my mum, my partner, family, extended friends will be eternally grateful. Thank you so much. I'll let you get back to the chat. So we could easily go through your entire CV, right? Which there's a temptation to, because I feel like there's more stories to come. I want to talk about the variation that you've experienced, because we're talking about Condor then, and it sounds like that was a real foundation for you to then go and build into.
It was when I first moved to East London. It was where I really started founding my roots within the London bike trade and where it all kind of grew from. Living and working with bike messengers was amazing.
Are they all mad?
Yeah, they're fucking mental.
I thought, I had this impression.
Like, they're just, oh my God, they're a different breed.
Yeah.
They're a completely different breed.
That was definitely the stereotype that I had in my head. And I'm kind of glad.
I mean, they're a lot of fun, but
they
are. You've got to be a certain type of person to want to put yourself at risk every minute of your life. But mate, it's a lot of fun. London's a lot of fun to ride. When you get confident on a bike in London, it's like no other city to ride. And I've ridden in a lot of cities. Like we went to, with the messengers, I went to the Messenger World Championships in New York.
I didn't even know it was a thing.
It's a massive thing. And I can just remember the New Yorkers going, "It's the hardest city to ride," and me and John were there, and I was just like, "No, you've got one-way signs, big wide roads. You just have to look in one direction, and just make sure you don't get turned on by a bus.
Yeah.
And if you hit the wave in New York, you can just do block after block after block after block, and your legs are just going because you've got no brakes on your bike.
Yeah,
because it's like fixed gear brakes, brakeless. So living and working with bike messengers was a lot of fun, and they are absolutely mental.
I'm glad because that was definitely the perception that I had in my head.
Yeah.
But as well as bikes being this undercurrent, we're talking furniture design.
I haven't actually ever done as a professional. I've never done any furniture design.
Okay.
I kind of came out of uni and didn't really pursue the furniture thing, which is, I mean, I've got a real passion for furniture. My wife hates me for saying that we need to get this and we need to get that, and I find something and hoard it, and sometimes I restore it, and
Okay. But that's nice. But furniture, not so much, even though furniture was part of the
massive part of the course. Furniture,
Okay.
But I mean, I think the big thing that I learned from uni was, one was the presenting side of things, but two is just learning that I like to be creative in a lot of different fields.
Yeah. Because product design was definitely in the future for you.
Yeah.
Fashion design, and apparel design.
So the apparel and fashion thing goes back to my family, really. So my mum was pattern cutter seamstress.
Right.
So she has me sat in front of a sewing machine when I was like 3-4 years old,
Right.
making cuddly toys, for myself.
Wow,
Yeah.
I've got a 4-year-old,
Yeah,
and there's I just can't imagine
no.
his hand would be in there before I knew it. Okay,
Totally. Yeah. But
Amazing.
my dad's the same. Like, when I was 3 years old, he gave me a block of wood, a packet of nails, and a hammer.
Oh,
He
it's a
said, when you
different
stop
time.
it, yeah, exactly, 80s. When you stop hitting your thumb, you can have a saw at 3 years old.
Yeah, learn the hard way.
But yeah, so my mum was a pattern cutter seamstress. She taught at a girls' school. Taught was it? I can't remember what the name of the actual course was. It wasn't. It was textiles and something.
Right.
But she was part of the Embroiderers Guild and all that kind of thing. So, and she worked for amazing couture houses in the 60s and 70s. Wow. And then my grandfather was a tailor. So
it was in the blood.
It was in the blood. And I think, my brother actually went and did a bit of, he went and did a course at Central St Martin's and did a bit of fashion in that. And I probably should have gone into that and was essentially doing that with the sports product design engineering, because that was, I was looking at apparel at that point anyway. But yeah, should have done fashion, got into fashion or got into the apparel design through Condor more than anything else.
So was that the next job? Or did it lead?
It was kind of
tenuously at the very least.
Kind of like, so when I was at Condor, London was bubbling with creativity, especially around cycling, and it was changing quite a lot. And there was a fashion show called, I think it was Heels on Wheels, that was put on, that had dashing tweeds in it, which is still available, which is like tweed cloth with a reflective yarn in it, right. And a few others, but the one that was involved with it, which is the big one, was Rafa. So I had a little business called Bink, and I was on a catwalk with Rafa. So seeing what Rafa were doing and how they changed the industry for the better was amazing. I was there the day that Simon Mottram came into Condor and asked to put his mannequin in the window. And Grant turning around to me and one of my colleagues going, "What do you think of this brand, Rafa?" And I was like, I think it's going to be amazing, whereas everyone else was like, it's just one of those fixie brands, and it turned out to be amazing. I got to know Luke Scheibler from Rafa really, really well. They had an exhibition called The Kings of Pain on in Brick Lane, which was showing the Tour de France, and it had free beer. So I was there pretty much every night after work and got to know Luke really, really well. I used to, go on holiday with Luke and his kids. We used to go riding out in Europe, in the Alps and the Pyrenees, and that's kind of how that sort of started. And it was just me and him would sit and doodle, and those doodles became product. So, yeah.
The amalgamation between the creative side and bikes and that world and bike apparel and all of these things and fashion, again, from a position of ignorance, I think just learning how interconnected and woven that all is. Yeah. Especially your route into it. Yeah. Because you're a creative at heart, and that you're exuding that most definitely. But to have bikes at the heart of that, I just don't think everyone is always going to make the connection. No. But it's more about the movement and the culture and the lifestyle around it. Yeah, kind of checks those boxes. I mean, it was just, cycling for me, a big part of it is the freedom of it. And it was, solace and headspace. And I'm really bad at promoting myself to try and get myself work and that kind of thing. And getting out on my bike just gets my head to think about what I want to do or sometimes just completely switch off. Which is rare, especially when you're running your own business. The ability to switch off.
It only ever happens on the bike though. Right. Like literally.
But at least you found an outlet to go and switch off.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
But yeah, no, they're very intertwined for me. And the underlying thing on both things is that engineering. It's how, you're looking at a bike, how do you make that work? How, I love doing what the brands say no. So Shimano say this isn't compatible, and I'm like, I can make it work. I've got to work. I can do that. And it's the same thing with what I do, which is like what I call sort of performance lifestyle apparel. Is you look at how you can either articulate a pattern to make it fit better in a certain position of riding a bike or running or whatever sport you're partaking in, or you can look at your everyday life and go, well, these performance fabrics could be used within this garment and give it another attribute, another quality that it didn't have before. And I think that's the most interesting thing for me when it comes to garment design is kind of how that performance lifestyle market is starting to emerge. And there's a few brands that have touched on it, but there's such a plethora of performance fabrics available to you now. They've got incredible hand feel to them that you can use it in a lifestyle garment and it won't look like a performance fabric, you know? So
I think if you said about apparel around cycling, let's say 10, 15 years ago, it's changed a lot, right? There is a lot more, and again, this is from a position of ignorance, but I'd say that there's a lot more available and there's a lot more style associated now with what I mean, people are wearing to get on bikes.
There's two things that really changed cycling timeline-wise. One was the Olympics of 2012. The other one was the Olympics, what was it, 2008 wouldn't have been, when we had that massive glut of wins on the track. And that was when Chris Hoy became the household name and all that kind of stuff. So those two things were really, really big. Obviously we had the Tour de France start in London in 2007. There's also the 7/7 bombings in London that people don't think about. But for the London scene, that was massive. Like the bike shops sold out of bikes in a day.
Yeah, I never would have connected the dots. But
and
it makes
the
sense.
other thing that was a big influencer with was Cycle Scheme, which is a voucher scheme that you can get where the government will give you a percentage of money towards your bike. But it's a weird thing to say, but Rafa was one of the biggest changes in cycling for a very, very long, within road cycling especially, because it gave you something that was clean and beautiful and well designed and wasn't like every other brand blazoned in logos and Euro styled, like Pretty Larry. I mean, they were still doing their little tipped hair and stuff. And, you know, like pre that, like, you know, people were buying embrocation with like essentially like skin tan in it.
Right.
You know, like, so the embrocation that warms your legs up, but also it was like a tanning oil that some of the guys from the Euro guys would use. So Rafa came along and it really, really changed. And I can remember it arriving and the way that it divided people was ridiculous. But what it did is it made cycling really cool. You know, it made it the new golf. Like all those guys that were going and spending, you know, £4,000 or £5,000 a set of golf clubs were coming to us at Condor and dropping £4 or £5 grand on a bike, £3,000 on kit. It was like the market all of a sudden changed, and it's taken a while for the rest of the industry to sort of catch up with it. But now there's a glut. Now I think there's almost too much choice and there's too many brands out there.
Right.
And also the fallout of COVID as well, because COVID was good and really bad for the bike industry. So we had a 70% spike in sales, and then the big finances went, well, I'm going to predict growth on an anomaly. So all of a sudden there's, you know, 120% more product the next year that there isn't the buyers for because they haven't got their furlough money anymore. And then COVID shut down the factories, which meant that production got stopped, which meant all of that new product got delivered late, which meant the season after, and there was just too much stock everywhere. So like for the last couple of years, if you wanted to buy a bike, you could buy an amazing bike for 50% off. Thankfully, they've gone through that now.
I was going to say, is it recovered now?
It's starting. I mean, there's still quite a lot of stuff on sale and discount, and it's starting to recover. The issue I think with the apparels, the bikes themselves, they've almost cleared through all of that, and there's fairly decent stock levels of componentry and that kind of thing. Whereas for a while, it was really hard to get hold of anything. I think the real kick is what's happening with the apparel side of the cycling industry, which is to me is broken. Because everyone just waits for the sale now. But I think this is maybe just, you know, sales in general.
I was going to say, is that specific to the bike industry? Is that just...
I think it's a generic, potentially a generic thing across things. But what it means is no one's ever going to want or try to buy anything at the full retail. So then you're sitting on too much stock and everything's on sale. So for me as a wholesaler, as a retailer, it's impossible because I want to take these brands on, but then these brands go on sale so often that you're like, well, I can't work like this because I'm just going to end up selling the product for either less than it cost me or make £5 on a jersey, and it's it's not.
Well, these are all things that you're having to think about now, right? So setting up on your own, and I wanted to talk about that because it seems like a big chunk of your career you're a freelancer.
Mm-hmm. Been freelancing for like over 10 years now.
Okay. So again, I want to respect your kind of history, and at the same time get to the point where Stow Velo started to form, if that's okay. Because I think that's an interesting point to pick up from. When did you decide? Because we're talking about some of the considerations you now got as a business owner. Yeah. But when did you decide? At what point did Stow Velo form in your head that I need to do this?
The first post on Instagram was in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah. I started Stow Velo off the back of a lot of my friends that had come from the fixed gear scene, got into road cycling, and mates that were already road cyclists, or mates that, other ones, the guys that got into the motorbike scene got into bikes as well. So all of a sudden, all of my mates were buying bikes, but there wasn't anyone that could service them, or there were people that could service them, but that weren't doing it properly. And I'm like, these things are beautiful and they need to be looked after. So I just started, Stow Velo started out of my studio under my garden in Walthamstow. And then it wasn't massive. I was doing design work at the time. I was 2015, 35. Where was I then? I just left Rafa and had gone freelance. So it's just putting another string to my bow, really.
Because there's a big transition there as well, isn't there? To have left the company and then gone freelancing itself. But did it? The fact that you'd already done the freelance shift, did that help?
So I
kind
of freelanced in and around sports apparel for a long time.
Right, okay.
So essentially I was freelancing for Rafa back on their second collection in 2004, their first winter collection. So they had knee warmers and like the classic wind jacket with the reflective grow grain on it I worked on. And then worked for other bits and brands freelance wise, and then Luke came to me when he left Rafa and got me involved with Tracksmith, the running brand.
Right.
So that was before I'd gone full time at Rafa, and that was just amazing. That was like he did to running what they'd done to cycling. So he just made this lifestyle, and it was all about Ivy League. So I was taken off to America and went and did the old like sort of Ivy Trail, and like went to like the J-Press stores, and then met Richard Press, who's Jacobi Press's son, at the at FIT, which is Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, and he showed me, Luke, and Matt Taylor around the exhibition that he'd co-curated with Ralph Lauren. It was just like amazing, and then we went and had tea with him opposite.
That is just what a crazy journey.
It was just to embed ourselves into what that Ivy was, what Ivy Style was, and it was just amazing. And it was, the brand was originally going to be called the Elliott Lounge after the lounge in a hotel in Boston, which is where the runners used to finish after the Boston Marathon. That was amazing, and I did that freelance. So I'd done bits and bobs freelance, and then left Rafa and went freelance straight out the back of that, and got my first job with Apidura, which is an on-bike luggage company, which ironically I've been working a bit on when I was at Rafa, and then when I left I worked on the Rafa stuff for Apidura.
Interesting. Okay.
And that was amazing, because it was the first time I'd ever worked with working out the die cuts for Hyperlon fabrics, which is stuff they make ribs out of. So it's what they make boats out of. So
Understood,
like you can weld it and bond it basically. Took that step, and doing the bike thing was to bring in a little bit of extra income.
And when did you decide that was going to be your full-time focus?
COVID really made that happen, because obviously I'd been doing it. It was getting busier, and I was doing it from the studio in my garden. But during COVID, obviously, one of the first things you're allowed to do was ride your bike. So everyone was wanting to get their bike serviced. So
what was your hour allotted of exercise?
And obviously, as bike shops were allowed to stay open, so I kind of used that to my advantage. Would just meet people outside my house and take their bike in, and scrap around to try and find parts and, go to shops that I'd worked in previously to buy parts at a discounted price that I could move on and slowly build the business. And then I managed to get off the back of COVID a bounce back loan.
Okay. Yeah.
And I used that bounce back loan to set up Stow Velo properly in Walthamstow in a sea container. So I have a sea container, which was interesting, tight, but made it work. It boiled me in the summer and froze me in the winter.
Opposite end of the spectrum.
Opposite end of the spectrum. But and I built a fairly decent following down there. Was really trying to find a proper retail space, but there's a bit of a click down there as trying to get units. And like anywhere, I don't understand how businesses survive when your rent is so high.
I don't want to talk disparagingly about Leigh, but I just feel like
it's like London prices.
It's a similar thing, right? And there's a click. I think that's fair to say. I think there is definitely a click, and it's hard for anyone to get into to try and get that space.
Like you see someone come up and then
it works.
Yes, seeing that. Saying that, there's the marina opening up, and I did get offered a unit down there. I was like, I've been here. I don't know if I want to go again.
I don't know. You could look at some insulation or something like that, couldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I know that you can. I mean, you can do amazing things with them, but it was a means to an end at the time.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I almost got flooded out one year. Even though the container was like, a foot and a bit off the ground. Yeah. All the old Victorian drains went wrong, and I went to work in Wellingtons, and it went over the top of my wellies. And
my word!
I've got photographs of it where I was, millimeters.
What a great story, though.
Millimeters away from my workshop flooding.
when you come to write the book, though, it's just a nice little chapter to, a nice part of the chapter to go into it. But so you were like a year, 2 years into built this business, this brand in Walthamstow, and then made the relocation to Leigh.
So it had been, what is it? 2022. I think I got the sea container unit. I think it was. It's just I can't remember COVID. It's such a blur, that COVID thing, isn't it?
It really is. The chronology around that time. How long did it last? What was the first lockdown? It's a blur.
I think it was November 21. I think I got it. But so I built this community, and I was at the time looking to try and get a retail spot, and had been knocked back so many times. As soon as you mention the word bike shop, people think dirty, and I'm like, no, think Formula One, like think Ferrari,
clean,
not Skoda.
pristine,
you know what I mean? Not that Skoda's a bad one anymore. But I'm very particular about my workshop and laying things out and cleaning tools. And right now, my workshop, in my eyes, is a mess, but everyone's like, it's immaculate.
Okay.
And so I got knocked back so many times trying to get a retail space. And then my wife and I had our first child. And we were in a lovely, we converted a 1-bed flat to a 2-bed flat, and it was lovely. But to do that step to get the 3rd bedroom and a staircase, and not really a huge amount more square footage, we couldn't bridge that gap. And I was for a long time fighting moving down here.
Why?
Because I don't know anyone down here. It's not.
And you built a community. You built a scene.
Yeah.
I guess Walthamstow, as we learnt with Jimbo that came on. Yeah. The commute into central London isn't too dissimilar.
22 minutes. From Walthamstow, really. Yeah. And on a bike, it was really, really quick. And obviously, where I've been in the same area for nearly 25 years. Yeah. So I could just jump on my bike and go and ride, and wouldn't need to have Strava or a map or anything like that. And then come down here and start chatting to people in the bike shop and go, what's the gravel? There's no gravel down here.
and that as someone that loves the scene is going to be a big consideration for you. I mean,
honestly, I came down here, and there's a friend of mine that lives down here who was massively in the cycling scene at super sort of on the media side of it. Right. And I had a good chat with him, and he's like, there's a scene down here, But I think you forget that Leigh kind of is here, and then it goes out, and then it stops, and then there's another river, and then there's another river, and then all of a sudden that kind of demographic becomes smaller, and my reach becomes smaller, but then also look on the map and go, well, there isn't really anyone doing what I do, even in North Essex, let alone out in Suffolk and Norfolk, and the nearest people to doing what I do, brands wise and sort of geekery wise, is in central London.
Yeah, got you.
So I'm trying to bring as a lot of people are trying to do, you know, a bit of London to Leigh.
Yep.
But my bit of London to Leigh.
Yeah.
So
Jimbo might have made exactly that same statement in his episode, actually, which I love, and I think a lot of people. Look, we seem to be a bit of a feeder town for a lot of people coming out of London wanting to escape.
Essex always has been. What's a Cockney?
Well, exactly. And you know, definitely post-COVID, it seems to be happening a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, let's say the next generation of people coming out and wanting to bring in these elements with them.
Yeah.
And I think it's when it's some really cool shit like you do, and like Jimbo's trying to bring in and inject into the. I think it's great if you're injecting that into the community.
Yeah, definitely.
But how hard a decision was it to pick up a brand that is in its infancy?
Crippling.
Put in a new place.
Yeah, crippling, really. And my wife and I spoke about this at length, and it was kind of like, I knew moving down here that I would have to relocate my business and start from scratch and build a community again. And some of my customers from Walthamstow have come to me, because it's only 45 minutes away by car.
Yeah.
Really, it's the same as going into town.
Yeah.
But the big thing is trying to find the reach to the customers down here. And I've got a small group that are, you know, loyal. But I want a really big group. as we all do, right? Yeah. But you know, they say it takes 3 to 5 years to build a business, and you know, I've had my doors open for just over a year.
Yeah.
I've done some really, really lovely bikes. I've serviced and worked on some really beautiful bikes. And I'm starting to build a community through my social rides as well, which is a big part of what Stow Velo is I want Stow to be the hub for the community. I really want to have somewhere where they meet for a ride, and you know, in time becoming a space about this kind of size with coffee, and you know, what I did with my first bike shop way back when in 2008. So, which is not in anything there, but a shop called Stow Velo.
Wow.
So when I left Condor, I set up Stow Velo.
Right.
Which was in an old warehouse space in London Fields, literally just off London Fields.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. It had a coffee shop out the back, first bike shop to have a dedicated coffee area with seating and like books for sale rather than just, you know, bikes. And we bought an entire bike shop in Belgium from an ex-pro called Steekmans, who had ridden with Jacques Anquetil, who was probably one of the most famous cyclists on the Peugeot team that Simpson rode on. And it was amazing. I just had a very unfortunate business partner, and it went a bit sour, but that shop got touted by Paul Smith as one of his top 10 destination stores in London. Wow. So it was, you know, and that's what I want to do with Stow Velo, is to try and rebuild, but with more modern bicycles, with the modern style of bikes, rather than that was all vintage. It was all vintage still.
I need you to have more of an opportunity to sit on podcasts and speak to people that know cycling, because I now want to go and research all the people you're talking about now, because your energy from it is just emanates from you.
I think an obsessive passion.
No, I love it though. But if you can get more people on that journey, then brilliant. But you need a platform to go and speak to people that know their shit in equal measure.
I've had a few people say I should do a YouTube channel, but I'm just like, do I? I'm not sure. It's
a whole commit. I mean, I can tell you from experience, it's more Tom's commitment than mine, but it's a big commitment. But through doing some of the research, mutual acquaintance of ours, Thomas Martinez, had come on one of your social rides, and I was watching what he'd done, and what an insight into your shop. I've never been into your shop.
You'll visit.
I want to come in now, 100%. But just getting that insight and seeing how you're talking about it. I just think it's incredible, and it's infectious, and people buy into it.
Yeah,
and that can be a really positive thing.
Yeah, definitely.
As well as,
I mean, I think the
balance.
The big thing with what I do is that because of what the product is, you have to have a level of honesty and transparency these days. You can't hide behind things anymore. And that's another thing with like the industry needing to sort of catch up with itself, is that there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and there doesn't need to be, because there's a wonderful thing called the internet that's got every single answer you need on it.
Yeah, true.
So you can't blow smoke anymore. So just be transparent and honest, and passion is, if you've got it, you're lucky, I think.
Just speaking though about all the things that you've done, I feel like it's sitting opposite you. It's hard to have Does it feel hard for you to have focused your energy into just one thing when there's obviously so many strings to your bow?
My brain's like ding, 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 ding all the time. Do I go and pursue and try and get a full-time design role? No, I'll get bored. I like fiddling with bikes. I mean, the big thing with bikes and me is I pay myself to play.
Right,
like,
okay. It's a great way to frame it.
It's like I've fiddled with bikes since I was a kid, and I now fiddle with bikes as an adult and pay myself to do it. And still enjoy it as much now as I did when I was, 10 years old building that bike with my dad.
And is that the barometer for you? When you think about success and how much you want to keep going, is enjoyment one of the biggest 100%. Factors?
I mean, I make bugger all money out of it at the moment. Hopefully in time it will be self-sustaining.
You've got to have that belief though, haven't you?
Yeah.
You have to have that belief.
Yeah. I mean, I think like there's no point in having £1 million a year pay packet if you're miserable, is there? And I mean, don't get me wrong, I get miserable because I want to be busier, but when I'm busy and I'm doing stuff and I did a build for a customer recently, and it was almost like I wanted to give him a hug when I handed the bike over because he was so happy. Like
nice.
That's the best bit about it. So
that human connection, I think, is such an integral part of finding purpose and meaning in what we do.
Definitely.
And if you're behind a screen and never really necessarily interacting with people in that way, it's hard to get that. You're in, it's kind of like this visceral thing. You're working, it's a tangible thing you're working on.
Definitely.
And you can see the reaction.
And the nice thing I think with what I do is it's one of those jobs that a computer won't replace. I know there's this whole like fear about AI and that kind of stuff, but what I do is these are the money makers, and the more you do it, it's the repetitive motion of something. Your hands remember things, your brain remembers things. You become quick. I can strip and build a bike and have this conversation with you at the same time.
We should have done that.
Could have done that. Next time.
Yours over there. For part 2, we'll get you doing that. You've said it out loud now.
I've committed. So I think that's a big part of it is if you can find a hobby that makes you money, why not? Why not?
I now agree with that. I think if you can, I think a lot of people try and force it, and sometimes it can strip the joy out of something. If you're something you're passionate about,
I've been there with bikes as well. There's been points where I'm like, I fell out of love with it for quite a while. Partly due to injury, but also because of where I was working and the atmosphere that was there,
the environment you're in, right?
Just wasn't. It wasn't. It took away that passion for me. It took away what I loved. So
and it's nice when you start something up again.
Yeah.
You engineer it and you curate it to make it something you love again, and that's the nice thing about having the autonomy of working for yourself and building something. And what is one of the main differences between the crowd that you used to have in Walthamstow and the local lot round here?
Not a huge difference, really.
Okay. I didn't know if that was a political answer. You're trying to be nice?
No. I mean, they're lovely guys.
You've got to be nice.
Yeah, I've got to be. I live here now. There's no getting away from it. Seriously, there's not a huge difference really between the customer base there and the customer base here, and some of them actually know each other. And like, there's a bike that I serviced for a customer in Walthamstow that a guy down here bought, and then turned up to my 1 year anniversary party on this bike. I was like,
That's so funny.
That's Jay's bike.
And you recognise that. Yeah. Wow.
And like bikes come back to me as well. It's a reoccurring theme, that one. There's a guy down here that's riding a bike the affectionately calls the pig.
Okay.
But in between me losing Stow Velo and going to work, where did I go after that? I think I went back to Rafa. I worked at a shop called 14 Bike Co. 14 was set up during the whole fixed gear craze that went on in London. So it was a very niche market, but it was a really cool shop in Brick Lane, big glass front end, loads of like every colour of the rainbow bike frames hanging up, and you could build it as like, pick that bar, this stem, Anyway, they were doing the whole single speed fixed gear thing, but they were working with one of the best British frame builders at the time, and I was like, let's get into road stuff. And this guy Dan came in and was asking about a road bike to John, who was the guy that owned 14, and John went, you know about this stuff, don't you, Keith? And I was like, we've got a jig, yeah, we can do this. So I set it all up. and spec'd it all out, worked all the geometry out, worked out what he wanted gearing wise, whether he was going to go lugged or brazed or, so on and so forth, and built this bike. And turns out he still rides it to this day. And he rode past me yesterday morning on it when I dropped my daughter off at the childminders.
Yeah.
So bikes have a tendency to come back to me, but in a good way.
Crazy. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's look. I think being brave enough, and there's an element of necessity, right? As you say, you were outgrowing the space you were in, like the one you were living in. It made sense to then have to move and bring it down here.
Yeah.
But it's a really brave decision for such a young brand where you've got a community growing.
Yeah.
Like the relocation thing is a huge aspect of it.
Yeah.
And it takes time to then bed in and grow again.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's a process.
It's definitely a process. I mean, overnight. I think what I do, the only way it's going to get better is word of mouth. Well, not better, busier is word of mouth, because I'll get someone to have their bike service and they'll be like, this guy serves my bike, have you seen what he does? And like slowly the word spreads. I just wonder how many of those people there are in and around Leigh and getting out further out, but I think I've had a few people, my wife explained it pretty sort of well. It's kind of like, I'm a bit like your barber. Once you find the right one, you're going to keep going back, Yeah.
If you've got sense, I mean, that's my take on it as well, right? I had the same guy cutting my hair for, I mean, he's too busy now to even book in with. He was a guest on this podcast for a long time ago, but
gave him too much work.
It was exactly that. Yeah, I mean, what was it? I think I was 19 when I started, and I'm not 19 anymore. So it's been a long, it's been a long time.
A journey.
It's been a journey, yeah. But you're completely right. And let's face it, Leigh is, it's not off the map. You're not off the grid here.
No.
And we have people, respectfully, George, who set up Roll Boys, he had people going from all over the UK to Hackney to go and queue for cinnamon rolls. These are incredible
I watched
products.
that one. I was like, "Wow, that's mental."
But people seek that shit out. But you have to talk about it. What George is great at is telling a story and talking about it. So hopefully this gives you an opportunity and a platform, and we continue to see it grow, because what you're doing, I think, is really special.
Thank you.
And it's lovely that you dropped down here, reluctantly or not.
Dragged. My not so rubber arm got twisted.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, the big thing is to build that community. And you touched on Thomas Martinez, which was like he found out about one of my social rides, said, "Do you mind if I come along?" Turned up. It turned into an absolute smash fest.
So I saw that on the YouTube video. Yeah.
I mean, thankfully, I did ride road on that one, but I did the short route.
Right. Okay.
And just, I was putting along, and I think we did 60. I think
because was it 80 kilometers or something that they went out to do?
I mean, they went out. Apparently, there's some guy on the front for the first, I think 15 to 25k of it, knocking it out at 45k an hour.
Wow.
And it's just like, that's not my idea of fun.
That's not the social bit is stripped back, right?
Not the idea of what the social rides are, but I know that especially roadies can't help themselves.
Well, Tom has also got a reputation for being very fast and very aggressive and really going for it as well. So I can imagine he played the hammer down.
I think it was more his mates than it was him.
Really?
If I'm honest with it.
Yeah.
He and then obviously was like, I'm here from Portugal for a little while. I'll come and do an interview. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But then we did a joint group ride not too long ago as well, which was. It was he's turned up, he's on his road bike. He's got, big, I think he's got 80mm rims. They're whopping great deep carbon rims, skinny little 28mm tyres. And his mates that he normally rides on the road would turn up on their gravel bikes. Right. So on my group rides, I put on a road option and a mixed gravel option.
Okay.
And he's obviously turned up on his road bike. He's going to ride the road ones. His mates turn up on their gravel bikes. And come on, you can do it. And he's like, he comes to me, do you reckon I can ride the gravel on it? I was like, absolutely not. And his mates are like, you'll be fine. And he's like, have you got any knobbies? I've got nothing that's going to go on that bike to make it any easier for you. And he was like, in for a pound. And he just went off with them. That one we rolled out and hit Two Tree Island. And that's how we started the ride that time. And we all kind of hit the bit at the start by the tennis courts you run past, or the golf driving range down there.
Got you.
And that goes onto the path on Two Tree. And as soon as we hit that first bit of loose gravel, they're off. And I'm like, I sit up, I'm like, I don't need this. I'm going to ride at my own pace. So I'm riding along and see this bloke sitting on the top tube of his bike, and this is like 8K in.
Right.
It's Thomas. I'm like, you all right, mate? He's like, yeah, double flatted. He was like, no, we're not fixing him. I'm going to do the walk of shame.
Yeah. Oh no.
I was just like, oh man, I feel really bad for you. And then I was obviously on my own for my group ride, which happens quite a lot. I'm not particularly quick on a bike.
But you're facilitating this, right? So
yeah,
that's
facilitating
okay.
it. Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I mean, the whole idea behind it is you sit up and you ride on gravel, like 14K an hour. That's not slow, but it's still not like mental quick.
Yeah.
And on the roads, sit around about 20 to 22K an hour kind of thing, like a mellow pace. But I think boys will be boys, and it is at the moment 100% boys that turn up, and I'd like it to be.
I was going to say, yeah, the intention is for it to be a mixed group, right?
Yeah, a mixed group, and I'd like to see. I mean, I don't really see a female cycling community down here at all, and I'd like to help build that as well. Well,
if anyone is listening to this episode and has ideas for what could help draw
definitely
more female riders in, again. I'm so out of it, I wouldn't know. But if that's as someone that's in that world.
No, there's. I mean, the female cycling scene in London, and I think in a lot of Europe is ginormous. Like there really is. Like it's not like it's just a male sport. It's a male dominated sport, like pretty much every other sport in the world is. But there is a lot of very active and very, very capable female cyclists out there. But I think it's the camaraderie. I think it's getting a gang of women together to ride together, rather than having to, be the only girl with a bunch of boys that
I understand that.
Want to go and watt bomb and get the KOMs. If you want to ride my ride, is sit up, enjoy yourself.
Tell anyone that's listening, when do the rides take place?
So the rides are the first Sunday of every month.
Okay.
Or as close to the first Sundays every month that I can do.
Yeah.
So the next one's going to be on the 2nd of October. So just after Halloween. No, not
2nd of November.
2nd of November.
Yeah.
God.
That's all right.
It's just been, it's my daughter's birthday. 2nd of November. And again, it'll be a mixed and a road pace. So I usually do roads somewhere in the region of like 60K.
Okay.
The gravel will be somewhere in the region of about 40 to 45K. It's about 2.5 hours of riding. Meet at the shop, 8:30, roll out for 9.
Nice.
But yeah, just hit me on my Instagram. I usually post on there.
Yeah.
I'm not great on Facebook. I've recently rejoined Facebook.
Okay.
Purely since coming down here, it's almost like there's more people on Facebook than there is on Instagram. I don't know if you've noticed that at all.
Interesting. I'm still not embracing Facebook. I turned my back on it a while ago and haven't necessarily
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I walked away a long time ago, long time ago, and realised that there was a load of cycling. Like people kept saying, "You've been on this cycling group on Facebook." I'm like, I'm not on Facebook.
Yeah, it's the group pages, right?
So I've linked into all of their group pages. But most of my traffic I drive through Instagram. But I am about to set up an open WhatsApp group.
Okay.
So from doing the group rides, I've got about 60, 70 people now.
Brilliant.
So I'm just going to set up an open WhatsApp group that people can then share their own rides or say, look, if anyone's going for a ride, I'm here. So, and try and build that community. And I think it's a big thing is putting people together that didn't necessarily know that there was someone that lives 2 roads over that does ride,
Well, speaking from experience, the community in Leigh is great at connecting other people.
Yeah.
So all you have to do, like 6 degrees of separation, is no truer.
It's 2 degrees of separation down here now.
It's just incredible. So I think people out there do want to forge connection and introduce people. So I think if you're helping to facilitate that, then it's.
I mean, there was one guy that was just, this was like, it kind of made the whole thing viable. So a guy messaged me saying, I'm interested in group ride. He came on it and messaged me afterwards and he goes, like, thank you so much for putting the ride. It's so well organised. I'm going to be honest here. I've got a real, social awkwardness and, I put myself outside of my comfort zone and came to your ride and I've enjoyed it so much and I'm definitely going to come back to the next one. And he now comes pretty much to every single ride. He's connected with other riders and goes riding with them. And that's what it's about for me. Like you've helped someone's mental health there and you're getting them fit at the same time and you're putting him in with other people. Like, job done.
What beautiful feedback to have got as well. That makes
definitely.
Just putting even that one of those on an incredibly worthwhile thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to play a game?
Go on then.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, right. So we're going to play a game.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to work because again, I'm relying on Google
Okay.
to tell me about cycling, but we're going to try it. The game is called Spokes or Folks.
Right. Okay.
So there's a few rounds of this.
Yeah.
It needs to be quick.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a name,
Yeah.
and that name is either going to be a person related to cycling,
Yeah.
or a brand related to cycling parts, components,
Apparel, etc.
apparel. I'm hoping you'll know these.
Okay.
I did fact check them.
Right,
but
okay.
We just don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
This is the joy of these games. Spokes or folks. So if it's a folk,
Yeah.
a person, you say folk.
Yeah.
If it's an apparel
say
or
spoke.
a bit, say spoke. You
Right,
know.
okay.
You know.
Got it.
We're going to start easy.
Yeah.
So this is round one. Bradley Wiggins.
Is a folk.
He's a folk.
Is a folk.
Brooks.
Is a spoke.
And do you know what they make?
Saddles.
They do make
handmade
saddles.
in the UK. Leather.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Extra
got
points for
amazing
that.
factory, like hand riveted.
Man.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
See, I knew.
You can put balm on them and re-stretch them as well.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, you get a double tick for that. Go through. I don't know how if I'm going to pronounce this right. Campagnolo.
Campagnolo, Italian componentry, spoke. Yeah.
Okay, that's right. I've got to remember people are listening. No, I do have to say it's correct. Shimano.
Is spoke.
And what do they?
Japanese componentry.
It's exactly what I've got written down. It's like you've read it. Chris Hoy.
He's a track cyclist, a folk.
He's folk.
Yeah.
We all know Chris Hoy. Okay, round two. They start to get harder, I think. Phil Wood.
Phil Wood, hub manufacturer from America. Spoke.
I thought that was a trick because it sounds like a guy.
I've got to say it, they're beautiful.
Right, okay. Hope.
Is a spoke.
And what do they make?
Lots of things: stems, wheels, disc brakes. They were the first with not one of the first, but they make really good hydraulic brake systems. British brand.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Extra point for that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not counting these up. Reynolds.
Spoke.
Yeah.
Literally spokes, wheels, componentry, tubing.
Okay. Really good. Chris King.
Spoke.
Go on.
Headsets, bottom brackets, hubs.
Man, you're next level. Okay, that's correct. These are all correct. I'm just ticking the page. I can't even read my own writing on this one, so I'm going to miss that one out. We're going to go to round three. At least you know it's actually paper and pen. Okay, Gary Fisher.
Legend, folk.
Yeah.
The godfather, one of the godfathers of mountain biking.
He's exactly right.
I've
I
met
had
him.
mountain bike godfather in brackets.
Yeah. Him
Tick.
and Joe Breeze and Tom Ritchie and Mount Tam back in the day. I've got a photograph of me and Gary Fisher with his little weird purple diamond glasses.
Okay, extra
cowboy hat.
Extra point for that. And for the cowboy.
Yeah.
Okay, Le Monde.
Wool, spoke and folk. So Greg LeMond was a professional cyclist who started Le Mans Cycles, which is now became part of Bontrager Trek.
Okay.
So
I've got folk down. I didn't have the spoke part.
Yeah.
Tour de France winner?
Tour de France winner. Yeah. Amazing.
I don't get a point for that.
He made Laurent Fignon cry, who was the guy that was supposed to be the hero of French cycling, because obviously the Tour de France is French and they very, very rarely get a winner.
Right, yeah.
And Greg destroyed it on the last time trial on the Champs-Elysees and made Fignon cry. He also designed some really whack bike parts. It was a drop bar that went that way, and then that way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There's too much
much going on.
Right, okay.
But yeah, no, spoke and folk.
I didn't even have the spoke part down, but I'm
so
going to...
Le Mans bikes, obviously. That was his bike brand. Like a lot of cyclists do. Hoy has his brand. And,
okay. I'm going to defer to your knowledge. I mean, you've already said this one, Pinarello.
Italian road bikes. Spoke. Yeah.
Tom Ritchie.
Another legend. So, folk. Tom made the first ever kind of production mountain bike frame. I've got a very early Ritchie frame made by Tom Ritchie himself from 1997. It's like the cross bike. It's like when you talk about cross bikes, that's the one to have, and I've got it.
I've been silent for a lot of that just because I didn't expect out of 15 of those you've got 100% of them right. There's bonus points flying around all over the place, but that's it. That's the game. I thought you'd know a lot of them, but you've blown it out there. Was that too easy? It's clearly too easy.
But you also know this for 30 years.
Yeah, you did say you're a geek about this stuff, so I did. I thought I could push it a little bit.
Smashed it. 100% my own specialist subject. I know what I'm doing when I go and mastermind.
Mastermind is next, mate. Right, we're gonna finish with the closing tradition on the podcast.
Yeah.
If you've listened to a full episode, you might know this is coming, but it's a question from my mum.
Yeah.
So my mum has sent in a voice note. I'm going to find this quickly. Let's see what mum, who's not a cyclist herself, is asking.
Hi Keith, what's the most difficult part of designing men's cycle wear? I sort of think I know the answer already. Thank you.
So my mum's name's Lisa. I don't know what
Hi,
she means.
Lisa. Hi, Mum.
So what's the most difficult
thing
part?
about Cool. I think the hardest thing with the cycling gear is keeping it simple. Like, all of it's pretty hard to design. Bibs are obviously exceptionally hard to design, because when you're designing a pair of bibs, you have to orientate the pad depending on the style of riding, which some people forget, and they'll go and buy a really, really expensive set of road bibs and go, these aren't comfortable when I ride my gravel bike. And I'm like, well, you're not in the right position. But a lot of it is really, really hard, and I think a big part of designing any kind of sportswear is how quickly the technology is evolving, and keeping up to date with the technology, and making sure you've got the right fabric, seam construction. You know, like if you've got contour wear, so fitted stuff like bib shorts, again, you want to make sure that all those seams are flat or concealed, so they're not causing any contact or pressure points and that kind of thing.
I don't know what Mum could have possibly meant when she laughed and said that she thinks we know what she meant. But anyway, that was Mum's attempt at asking a cycling question, so I thought that was quite good. Yeah, brilliant. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. And I'm sat here now thinking, how do I go and invest and start getting into cycling?
Come and have a proper chat.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Keith. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.
Well done, mate.
Cheers.
That was so good, honestly.